It's better just to get full insurance. You're only getting a modest discount to go and get parts coverage. While it's fun and it's cool to talk about, the Betty Grable's legs and, J-Lo's butt or whatever you might want to,
That's the one I
those are
remember.
the headlines that, people have had over the years, and that's fine and fun. But really for comparable coverage, it's not always the best.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of CBS Spotlight. If you are here by mistake, you're in the right place now. I'm Eric Alvarado, and I'm joined by Mr. Jack Elder, Head of Advanced Sales here at CBS Brokerage. And we are your friendly guides through the world of insurance and wealth management. Today on our show, we have Mr. Derrick Pfau, who is the Regional Vice President of Petersen International Underwriters. They are known for doing and creating really unique, tailored insurance solutions. Derrick, what sets apart Peterson's in helping address unique needs of advisors above and beyond, I guess, what standard DI policies can do?
Yeah, so for us, we're in the surplus lines market. Peterson's is what's known as a cover holder of Lloyd's. So what we are is the insurance company. We do everything an insurance company does. We have binders and we're able to write risk. But really, the one key difference is Lloyd's holds that risk. So everything we do from issuing policies all the way through a normal process, we can handle here in house. But again, Lloyd's holds that risk. So they're the back end of it. So we've been a cover holder now for over 40 years now, and are the longest in the personal and accident space, and the largest. So what we do is we supplement the domestic market. So anything the domestic market is our slogan here, is anything they can't or won't do, we're able to help. So if you really think of it as the disability or the standard market is more, they have their box of insurance solutions and they like to stay well within that box. They don't like to stray from that. So that's where someone like a surplus lines market, a Lloyd's cover holder, comes into play. We help on the DI side. So the DI side, if you really just think of it within that box that you get at the domestic market, anything that they would kick out or not let in or is too high for their risk, that excess need is something that we would be able to handle. There's a lot of occupational risk that they just don't want any part of. So athletes, entertainers, pilots, we have our loss of license policy that is special for pilots. And it's a bit of a misnomer in that it's called loss of license. It's really attached to their FAA medical, because when their FAA medical is pulled, they're grounded. So they're those occupational risks, and some of those are, I don't see a lot of that. But there's YouTubers, there's influencers, there's 1099 employees. You can have all sorts of stuff that the domestics don't want really any part of. And that's something that you can absolutely send our way. And then what we see by and large, day in and day out, is impaired risk. You have clients that just are declined. So often advisors think, well, they were declined by multiple carriers and there's nothing we can do. Not always true. And so that's the market that we see more often than not, is that impaired risk type of case. So those are the three main areas on the DI side that we fit into. When it comes to our life insurance, it's really more a contract indemnification policy. It's not true life insurance. So Lloyd's doesn't import life insurance, but what we're able to do is when there's a business contract that calls for life insurance and you're not able to get it through the domestic markets, it's something that we are able to indemnify that contract. So if it's calling for a benefit of X amount, but you can't get it, or you're going through full underwriting and it's just labor intensive and taking a long time, it's something that we can help in the short term in that interim period. Or it's something that if you get a full declination, we can jump in there and just take care of that risk for you. So a few different areas that we fit in on the life insurance side of things. If those don't work out, we do have accidental death policies that we can do. And these days we're seeing a lot more interest on the kidnap and ransom side of things as people are traveling overseas in various high risk areas. And then lastly, we have our travel medical policy. So a lot of the abstract or periphery type of things that you might not normally see, but are definitely nice things for your agents to have when they're out there in the field.
So you've had a diverse career path, including time in the U.S. Army and in the corporate world before transitioning to DI, which is how I really see Peterson's. It's like, you went through and gave us the entire range of solutions that you offer, but DI is your kind of primary.
Right.
How did your unique experience and background shape your approach to serving clients in the DI space?
I I think the way it's helped the best is just in the relational aspect. So much of my background, I've been in different spaces with different people from all walks of life. And I don't know if it's maybe just a part of the DI market or maybe it's just because of how it's labeled. I don't know, but more often than not, DI is one of the few products that it really involves a lot of kind of storytelling and getting to know your client. And it's not to say that storytelling is fantasy or fairy tale, but I just don't think that DI as a whole really is something that the common consumer understands all the time. I remember even first getting into the field itself, like I'm like, okay, DI, so isn't this kind of like a workman's comp or how does this work? Like, what is it? So on the income replacement side of things, like more often than not, it really takes someone to explain what it is and how it functions. And then when you see how it functions, it's like, oh, this is fantastic. Why isn't this a common thing that people have? So, I mean, you're required to get medical insurance and all these other things, but like, I, for me personally, I've had a heart surgery. So I've been on the doctor's table. I have a scar from here to here,
Yikes.
here to here. It's right here.
Crazy.
That's one of those things that I never thought that would happen to me. I'm never going to be that guy, but I had the insurance to take care of it, and I had the insurance to take care of the medical side, and the medical side was fine. But then when I'm at home and recovering and I'm not having an income come in, that's the part where it was like, oh, that got scary because even for an elimination period, waiting for that time frame for it to come in, it's something that you just don't really understand it until you're in it. And a lot of people just don't understand the product in general. So being able to explain how it works, how it functions, and then what to expect is something that it's really required in this field. And it's just not really known to the consumer. So it really is something that's helpful to have, people like us out there talking to the client and letting them know exactly how it works and what you can expect and how it functions. So those products are just so full of minutia that oftentimes is beyond the client, and it really does need some hand holding. And not that they can't understand it, but to have someone kind of guide them through it is really really helpful.
So, Derek, you guys specialize in the disability insurance for athletes and other niche markets. What unique challenges or opportunities should advisors consider, and how does Peterson's help address them?
So really, when it comes to the athlete market, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, we've done plenty of policies with you when it comes to any of the athletes. But really, when it comes to the athlete market, it is something that we can cover pretty much anything across the athlete market. So whether you have, the four major team sports, whether it's, baseball, hockey, football, or basketball, we're able to cover any of those players and their personal needs. So more often than not, you're talking more lump sum, career ending kind of a benefit, but we can do a little bit more of a specialized policy for those particular athletes, and the loss of value portion of it as well, which is kind of like a stop loss policy. There's like a threshold that is set up. So it takes their market value or their draft value and gives you a percentage of that. And then if you're injured and you fall below that, then you can make up the difference of whatever max amount of benefit is that you took out. So there's those aspects, but while those are the major ones that everyone focuses on, there's also the extreme sports that we can handle. You can do boxing, MMA, but then we can still do tennis and golf, and NASCAR drivers, Indy sport, so jockeys, and those types of sports on that back end there. those are sports that we can offer policies that are because they're individual sports. We're able to offer TTD benefits as well. So the TTD is your normal monthly, so that's a temporary total disability. So that's your regular monthly benefit, the same as anyone else would get. So these policies tend to be a little bit more of a 1 year term and limited to just a single year, because a lot of times we're looking at players that are in contract years or going into the draft, but we can cover a wide spectrum, even Olympic athletes. So as they're getting ready to go to the Olympics, and those sponsorship dollars are sometimes huge. So really anything that you face along the spectrum, when it comes to anything in the world of athletics, we should be able to help in some form or fashion.
So, Derek, can you share a memorable story where maybe a disability insurance solution that I guess that you saw had a transformative impact on either a client or their family?
Yeah, there was a Lloyd's client a few years back that he actually shared his story on an NPR interview, and it's actually out there, still posted to this day. I don't know if you guys remember the tight end for the Packers, Jermichael Finley.
Oh, yeah.
He had a Lloyd's policy. He had a Lloyd's policy, and um, I forget the exact parameters of how big the policy was or how much he paid, but he listed all out there. And I remember reading through that interview, and he goes through and he talks about his experience and his time on the playing field. I was really kind of taken aback by how much and how often these guys are injured and to the degree. So he actually had made a statement about getting hit coming over the middle. And he said it would happen once or twice a game to where he gets hit and he's kind of just foggy, and he'll come up and look to each sideline and just try and figure out which one was green. And that's where he needed to go. So for me, like, I was just like, wow, these are the guys that we're insuring all the time. So it's like, if that's what we're insuring, holy cow, that's no wonder that domestic carriers don't want to touch athletes. So, yeah, you guys work with us all the time and bring these clients. And a lot of times they'll tell you, I'm sure you guys hear this all the time, where they say, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or, this will never pay because that'll never happen. Well, it happens. It certainly happens. And hearing his story, like, I think it's something that your clients can even relate to. Like, oh yeah, no, I felt that. I've had that happen. And it's not even always on the field. You'll get guys that get injured, and then they'll be on an operating table, and maybe something gets botched there. I remember Sharif Floyd, and there was the more well known Alex Smith, where he's had an infection. So there's those types of things where these guys are always saying, "Oh, it's not going to be me." You hear it whether it's a football player or executive or whoever it is across the board, but they happen. They really do, and it's just hard to have it resonate. But to see it in that article was really really eye opening for me, and I'm sure it would be for any of the clients that you're looking at as well.
All right, Derek, this has been great. Now I want to focus on some strange risks, because throughout my career, I have seen a few things that I had no idea could be a risk that's insurable. So can I throw some ideas at you?
Yeah, what do you got?
All right. Specific athletes' body parts. For example, I've heard rumors about NBA players who get their ankles covered. True or false?
True.
Get out of here.
Pitchers getting their arms, just their pitching arm covered.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Drivers' reflexes.
Nope.
Okay. Musicians' hands.
Oh, yeah. Hands coverage in particular is one that, whether it's a musician, artist, doctor, a lot of these guys are looking for hands coverage. So yes, we see that quite often.
So let me ask you, in that situation, like, you've got somebody who says, "Oh yeah, I've got this pianist and they want to protect their hands." Like, how do we bring that case here? Like, what do we even ask? Like, how do you value somebody's hands?
So it's still just based off of their income. And so more often than not, when it comes to these types of parts coverage, it's fun. It's a headline. But if you're not in the type of market to where you need a headline, it's really not comparable coverage. I could have MS and it's going to cause me from being able to play the piano, but it's not specific to my hands, so it's not really going to cover. So there's a lot of things that it's better just to get full insurance. You're only getting a modest discount to go and get parts coverage. While it's fun and it's cool to talk about, the Betty Grable's legs and J-Lo's butt or whatever you might want to. Those are the headlines that people have had over the years, and that's fine and fun. But really, for comparable coverage, it's not always the best.
So what about someone's voice? Is that insurable?
It is. We've had that a number of times with musicians that, but more often than not, when we see it, it's because they've had issues in the past. So a lot of times it's tough to even cover just in a general policy.
Yeah. What I call that is what should I did.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you cover teeth? Models' teeth.
So surprisingly enough, we have had that before. I forget exactly the parameters of it, but when I first started, one of my colleagues had been working on a policy in which he was having a lady's teeth covered. She had a bunch of dental work done and spent thousands upon thousands and just wanted her teeth covered. So yeah, we got a policy for it.
Some more rapid reactions here.
Yep.
Do you cover brain functions in any way?
We haven't had that specific as something that someone wanted to cover, but in a normal policy, we would be able to handle that.
Okay. You mentioned jockeys earlier, so you do jockeys' physical health.
Yep.
You do race car drivers?
We do, absolutely.
Okay. I mentioned hands earlier. How about artists' hands? If they're like a painter or a sculptor or something like that?
Certainly.
Sure.
What about facial features? Like there's people that might have a unique facial feature or something like that. Do you cover that?
Oh, we would. So it depends on the type of coverage too. So if it's like an actor or actress, that's something that's covered. The disfigurement rider is added on to the star coverage. That's the name of that particular product. So star cover has disfigurement rider already added in, so it is covered.
Wow.
Okay. What about stunt performers?
Absolutely.
Circus, stunts, all that, all that stuff.
Right. Any of that kind of stuff, any of the big high budget kind of stunts that you can think of, whether it's movies, ads. We've had stuff where, a guy will be flying by on a wingsuit and have to grab a stationary object. I believe that was even for just a commercial. But we had a $1 million policy on a guy like that, where it's just, he's racing by and anything could go wrong, but some of those guys, the Red Bull type flyers and wingsuit and all those guys, they're fantastic at what they do.
Yeah. So one question I get, I know with like team sports, sometimes the domestic marketplace won't touch, more than one player on a team or something like that. So it makes it hard to get coverage. In this situation, say you're covering the Red Bull team or whatever, is there a limitation? Would you guys only cover like Pastrana and you wouldn't cover some of the other guys because, it's such a collective risk?
It's a traded risk.
Yeah. No, not necessarily. It really would be more associated to what they're earning. So if their income warrants it, then we can definitely look at it. Typically, we get limited around 100,000 or higher in income for athletes. So if they're making more than that, we shouldn't have an issue with it.
Interesting.
So these are all awesome. And, as my kid says, IRL dad in real life, our advisors don't have a ton of these clients, but you're right. It's fun to talk about and it does come up and you're a resource. Mm-hmm. But what's the main time they should be considering the excess DI market?
The main time they should consider excess DI. So it really is the individual risk, and you see a cap, or they say, we're limited to X amount. That's PIU. Send it. That if they say declination, send it here. As they say, we don't cover that occupation. Anytime you hear a no or it's capped, that means there's more that can be done, and that's when you send it to the team at CBS, and they're going to get you covered because they have a resource for you. So when it comes right down to it, anytime the domestics can't or won't, that's our tagline, and that's where we can come into play.
Derrick, this has been great, super informative, and hopefully the folks out there listening found some opportunities, or maybe got their brains moving a little bit about some ideas on how they can help additional clients that maybe they just didn't think there was a solution for, or didn't realize there might even be an issue. So we thank you for that. And if you are out there and you have these types of clients, get a hold of CBS. We will get you in contact with Derrick and make sure that your clients get taken care of. Outside of that, hopefully this has been helpful. We appreciate you dropping by here at CBS Spotlight. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks again, Derrick. Appreciate your time.